through, but you're coming through low on my side.
How about now?
No, still about the same on my side.
Okay. I'll try to speak a little louder as best I can.
Yeah. I mean, it's good enough. You guys got to be quiet down here. My two boys are down here, so as long as they stay quiet, we should be fine.
No worries.
Yeah.
So what's going on, guys? I'm back with another Thursday live stream, and I'm joined with my good friend Art over here from Art's O-Gauge Trains.
How you guys doing?
And we're going to be doing our usual thing, just shooting the breeze, doing a little bit of a Q&A, and then after a while, we'll run some trains for you guys. So what's going on, man? It's really, really good having you on the channel with us tonight.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I'm glad. Now, this is our first time on YouTube versus Instagram, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. And I got my laptop up here, so if anybody has anything for questions or anything like that, I can see what's going on. But yeah, been good. Like I said, it's summertime, so we did a quick family vacation last week. So I was down, and I actually went to. Oh, I should have pulled those out. I think I put them away someplace. I went to Toy Trains and Collectibles. We were on a road trip down south. So we stopped in Manassas, Virginia at Toy Trains and Collectibles, which I'm sure you've heard like everybody rave about that place. So we went there and I picked up, I have been searching for I know it's not scale, but like the Chevy Lionel auto wreck. And so later when we maybe run some trains, I'll dig that out. And I found that there, and I found a rail box car, just a yellow rail box car that I've been looking for there. So I was very successful. My son picked up a piece of HO rolling stock while he was there. So it was good. Those guys were really friendly, really nice. Like, I know everybody on YouTube talks about like how nice they are, but like, the owner, I'm assuming he was the owner, was the older gentleman who was there, like was, talking to me. He was pulling out stuff to show me different things. And he was a lot of fun to, just hang out with for a little while. We were only there for probably about an hour, would be my guess, somewhere around there. But it was really cool just to check it out. Did not walk out of there with anything other than a couple pieces of rolling stock, even though I was tempted by a couple of engines. I'm still, if you remember last time we talked, still trying to hold out for a Lion Master Big Boy, and I'm at York this year. That's my plan. So, yeah.
Nice. And speaking of HO, how's the process going with the layout that you guys have set up down below?
Yeah, the HO layout. So, my younger son has been after me to do some videos about that. We haven't really done much as far as like adding to the layouts with scenery and things like that. We need to do more of that. We've picked up some like farm animals and some people and things, but need to get working on that. So hopefully when the fall comes around and summertime slows down a little bit, we can get working on the HO layouts a little bit more. They both need so they both have an HO layout. They both need we need to figure out how to do roads. So the difference with their layouts versus my O-Gauge layout, it's my O-Gauge layout. I just went on top of the plywood and I painted the plywood and then painted the roads on there. Their layouts, I actually put grass mats on. So I need to figure out a way to put roads on there for them over the grass mat. So that'll be, something we can work on maybe this fall and winter.
Yeah, I know that making roads on any layout is, not always an easy task right away.
Yeah.
Like you really got to make sure you do your research and make sure you'll not only just do your research, but make sure that you look at photos of any kind of road, out in the country.
Yeah. I did not go for ultra realism on my layout. I just used some gray paint and just painted the roads, and some of them I will say are a little narrow. But it was interesting. I must have spent, I don't know, I'm gonna guess 3 or 4 years with this layout, with the cars sitting where the roads would be without painting the roads, because I was so averse to like making a mistake and putting the roads in the wrong place. So I kept moving the buildings around and tweaking it and being like, is this exactly where we want the roads? And then we finally painted them. But adding the roads in, I think makes a big difference on the layout. It really brought it to life a little bit, the traffic. And then when I did that, I actually put those MTH traffic lights in there, which I think are now Atlas makes them. And they're fantastic. I mean, they weren't that expensive. I think a pair of them is like $30 or $40. And I have 3 intersections, I think, covered with them. And they're great little like detail that I think adds a lot of life to the table.
Nice. I know for when I was making my roads for my layout, I didn't want to go too ultra realistic with mine either. I basically just picked up a couple of tips from. I'm not really sure if you ever watched, Eric Siegel's channel, but
Yep.
he actually did a tutorial on how to make his own, road bed by doing a mixture between Elmer's white glue and Woodland Scenic's fine cinders. So that's kind of what I've basically done with my layout in the back over here. And then I also kind of took like a number two pencil to add a little bit of highlights to the roads to
Oh,
give
that's
it
a
a
good
little bit
idea.
more of that extra shading.
Yeah. Nice. So, how was that process making the roads? Like I've seen that video where he makes it, right? And he even shows, I think in that video, right, you can rip it up and make it look like they're repairing the road and then
Hmm.
pave right back over it.
Hmm.
Um, was it as easy to do as he says it is?
Well, it was actually much easier for this layout than it was for my old layout from when me and my family used to live in New Jersey. Because what I did on the old layout was I kind of did a similar technique that he did, was to use the track bed and then lay that out first, and then I mixed the Woodland Scenics glue and the cinders together and poured it right on top, and then kind of started brushing, started pushing it around to make
Yeah.
sure it fills in all the gaps in the track bed. And as much as I really liked using that technique, it was a little bit of a hassle to clean up once we were getting ready to move into our new place here. And I know I didn't really want to do something, that complicated for this layout. So I only painted the roads on, the layout as you see behind me here. And once the paint was still wet, I just went ahead with the same cinders and sprinkled it on. And I also uh, well, I know I mentioned I used the pencil technique for my old layout, but for the new layout, to add a little bit more realism, guess you could say, to it, was to draw a couple of lines onto the roads to mimic that there's been like a chase scene from a couple of cars, driving down like a bunch of maniacs or so.
Huh. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Yeah,
And
I
I
was
also,
wondering. I was wondering, and you mentioned it in his video. He put the track bed down first,
mhm.
and then you mentioned the Woodland Scenics like ground up piece parts with the Elmer's glue. Is the track bed even necessary?
uh, I guess you could say it's optional if you ever want to use that or not.
Because I felt like that could get really expensive, right? Like putting track bed down and then all that Woodland Scenics material on top of it.
Plus, the other side of it is that if you want to like, add like sidewalks and such, that's also like a big, I don't want to say waste of time. It's more like, uh, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, time consuming, I would say,
Yeah,
right?
time
Like,
consuming. Yeah, thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, I think because I have thought about doing something like that, and I've just been like, by the time I get the what does everybody use? Everybody uses like that really thin board. I can't think of what it's called. Um, and like paint it and draw all those cracks and everything in there and whitewash it and all that kind of stuff. The only thing I might do is down by my train station. I have two parallel tracks, and I thought about maybe putting a strip between the two tracks. That's the only thing I've thought about maybe doing. I think that might be it. Other than that, it's way too much effort.
Right.
Yeah.
I also tried using the Woodland Scenics, whatchamacallit, those little boards that like you put in between like the track sections, so that way the car can go over it. I
Yeah.
tried using that for my old layout, and it did look really nice. But you know, it was a little challenging to work with, especially trying to get all the edges, you know, sanded down so that way the flanges can move right through, you know, the track without bumping into those little
I didn't think about
sections
that.
of filler.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what did they? I know they make that, and they usually say like what track will it work with any type of manufacturer's track, or is it only with certain one?
Well, for the most part, well, from my best experience, it does work for fast track. I haven't tried it for Atlas quite yet, and it can work for tubular. But like I said, if you plan on using, you know, that type of thing from Woodland Scenics, you got to make sure that all the edges are sanded down, so that way the flanges can move smoothly through the rails without any derailment.
Nice, nice. Um, so just in case you were wondering, that's my son in the comments going crazy right now with like, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So he's having fun watching. But we're up to what do we have? 8 watching here, huh? That's pretty good. I wonder if I count, right? Because I'm watching it on the computer too, so I probably count as one of those.
Right. How you doing, Ed? What's going on, Flopper?
You can say hi back. Nice.
So I know
You
you
know what? I
mentioned.
just realized. Are you using the front-facing camera or the rear-facing camera on your phone?
Uh, how
The
so?
front
Like,
one?
well, I guess you can guess you could say that.
I guess is the screen facing you? I'm wondering
Yes.
if that's why mine volume is so low. I wonder if I could flip mine around. Let me give it a shot and flip mine around and see if it makes the sound any better. In 1 sec.
Okay.
All right. All right. Why don't you give it a test now?
How you doing, George?
Yeah. Still the same for me.
No difference?
No difference in sound. I don't know why my phone is so low.
Hmm.
I don't know. That's all right. It works. Now I can see you in the screen at least instead of looking down to see you.
Nice.
Yeah.
So anyway, I remember you doing that little review video on your New York Central pacemaker, but did you ever get a chance to upgrade the sounds yet, or are they still pretty much the same?
So I haven't. So yeah. So I actually just mailed it back to Train World. So if you remember in the video, there was a bent. So it was kind of crazy. I put it on the tracks, and I went to run it, and it rolled forward. I'm going to call it maybe like a quarter of an inch, and then it stopped. And I was like, oh no, another broken engine. That would have been like my 4th in a row or whatever. And then I kept looking, kept trying to figure out what was going on. And it turns out one of the side rods was actually like catching, and it was preventing the wheels from rolling forward. And so everything bound up, and the rod actually bent into like an arc. So I called up Train World, and they told me send it back. They exchanged it, and they're going to mail me a new one. So I think it's either shipped. I didn't see. I think it's shipped today, or it's going to ship tomorrow. The new one coming back. So I haven't had a chance to do anything really other than run it for those couple days I had it. But I don't have a full DCS system yet. So I only have like you. I only have the little remote commander. So you actually need, at least from what I've read, you actually need the full system to do the sounds. I actually bought that book, and it's upstairs in my office someplace. The DCS, everything you need to know about DCS guide or whatever it is that everybody talks about off of Amazon. I bought that, and it has a whole section in there. And you actually need the full system because you have to hook your computer up to the system so that you can take the files off the engine and then put new files onto the engine. So once I get it back, I'm going to try to maybe mess around with that a little bit. Once I get that system, I have it on order. I think the last I saw, MTH is going to ship them in late August. So see if we get it.
Fingers crossed.
I have the base 3 on pre-order too from Lionel for Legacy because right now I just run TMCC.
Mm-hmm.
And I did notice on the Lionel website that now the ship date for that now says February of next year.
Really?
So I don't know if they're backing it up because they've just received so many orders, or if they're backing it up again like it's delayed. And that would be a real shame, right? They've been talking all year about getting that out in third quarter. And if it moves to Q1 next year, that's a long way off.
Yeah, I feel like they're starting to have a little bit of trouble behind the scenes when it comes to that system.
Yeah. Have you seen any of the videos of what they did? They went out to, where was it, Chicago, I think, recently, and ran out on their layout out there in a club layout. I think it was Chicago, and it was a great video, great 2 or 3 videos of them demoing the system. And they have like it's definitely a much more production version than, like, if you remember the initial videos, it was like a little plastic 3D model they had that they
Hmm.
were using. This one appeared to be made out of metal and like a little further along. And they were testing actually an external antenna on it and everything. So
Really,
we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what it looks like.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
What's going on, Dale Hudson?
Oh, yeah. I've been looking at the, yep, there it is. Chicagoland. Yeah, it was Chicagoland. That's right. It's a great video. If you guys haven't watched that, it was, I think, 2, maybe 3 videos. Um, and it was, I mean, they were long. One of them was, I think, close to an hour long. And they
Hmm.
had the whole club, or at least a bunch of the members of the club in there with legacy remotes and their phones. And they were all running, like, I don't remember, they had like X number of engines, 50 engines or something like that, running at once, all hitting the signals at the same time, all hitting the horns at the same time, things like that, to really stress the system. It was really interesting to watch.
Nice.
Yeah. What's new on your side? Yeah, I know last time we talked, you had just finished that video on adding the coupler to the front of a post-war steam engine.
Of So I don't really want to give too much away, but I did make a couple of I did modify a couple of things here and there on the main layout, as you see. Well, actually, uh, my uh, my parents were kind of talking in the background, so it's kind of hard for me to think straight. So, but
That's
anywho,
a
like I
Yeah,
said,
I
I
did
don't
see
want
the
to give
teaser picture of the bridge missing.
right. But anyway, like I said, I don't want to really give too much away, but you guys might see a couple of things here and there tonight that look kind of new. I will definitely get back to those at some point during the week because I do have another layout update which I'm currently working on. So whatever you guys, take notice of tonight, and you know, if you want to find out more information about it, then you guys are going to be surprised on, you know, what you guys are going to, see in not only tonight's video, but also the next layout update that I do.
Nice. That's cool. That's cool. I do need to do, I don't want to do I don't think I changed enough on the entire layout to do a whole update, but I do need to do something on this yard that I added in over here. And I'm going to do, probably can't see it, but I built the campfire right here. Um, and I'll do a quick video on how I did that probably as well. It really was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
Hmm.
And I looked online. I really didn't see many videos about how to do it. And I just kind of made it up as I went, and it came out really good. So,
Yeah, I was
yeah.
actually kind of like that with the like you mentioned, with the coupler that I just added to one of my Lionel post-war steam locomotives. I understand that they talk about it in like train magazines and articles and such online, but they never really show you how to actually do it. So I figured, since there aren't really that many video tutorials on how to do something like that, I figured I might as well take crack out of it myself.
Yeah. No, that's a great idea. I mean, like, that's what makes this hobby fun, right? Is like you can just go try stuff, and like most of the time, especially with that post-war stuff, right? Like most of the time you really can't screw anything up unless you're like drilling holes and things,
Hmm.
or or like in, some of those plastic shells, like, cutting them or whatever, right? Um so that's what, I like, and worst case scenario, right? The way some of this stuff works, I talk about it with my son. Like, we're trying to think about where we put some of the yard lights and things on our layout here. I'm like, all right, let me just put them in. Worst case scenario, I take them out and I like fill over those holes with a bush or something like that, right? Like, you can do anything and just kind of keep trying stuff until it looks right.
Definitely.
Yeah, cool. Um, I did. Also, just get a delivery today. This guy just came in, which I'm going to do a video on. I guess I'll do one hopefully this weekend. I can get it out. It was an absolute steal off of trains.com. It's a Lion Master Legacy New York Central. I'm going to get it wrong, but I think it's an SD70, and it was part of a set. It was like a freight set or something, a legacy freight set, and I don't even remember what year it was. I think like 10 years ago, something like that. But it was just the engine, I guess. So since it was a set breakup, the engine was cheap. Didn't have a box, so it was even cheaper. It was, I had a bunch of Trains points that I was able to trade in. I got it for less than $200.
It's a good steal.
Yeah, I know. It's like when you pick up a legacy engine for less than $200, I feel like that's a great deal.
And it's a little hard to see the rest of the engine, but from what I can tell, it's a very nice looking piece right there.
Yeah, pretty nice little engine. Like I said, maybe later I can get a little bit more of a close up of it, and also I'll do a video on it so everybody can see what it looks like. But it's a really nice little engine. I've been well, first of all, the price, I couldn't turn it down, but then also like I've just been into. Well, I feel like I've gotten into steam engines a lot. I kind of flipped back a little bit and was like really interested in like double heading a couple of engines, doing some lash ups, things like that. So now I have 3 diesel engines that I could lash up together that I've been playing around with some of the modern freight, because like I mentioned earlier, those 2 cars I picked up were modern freight. So I was like, hey, let me lash up a couple of engines and play around with that concept a little bit. The problem is my layout's not really that big. So the lash ups kind of look a little funny because the train's not that long, but you know what? I don't mind. I have fun with it. That's really what matters, right?
Hey, you don't really have to explain anything to me when it comes to size and such, because my layout isn't really that big either.
Yeah, but I mean, like you've done a ton with that, like small, like footprint. You've got a lot of different things in there. You have that whole operating scrapyard that you've got built over there.
And in case you guys,
I love watching those videos you do with that when you pick up the scrap and throwing it around.
Thank you. But anyway, if you guys want to go check out that video for yourselves, I definitely highly recommend it. If you really want a scrap yard for at least your layout, I'll make sure to leave a link down in the. I'll make sure to leave a link to that video down below in the description, as always. By the way, in case you guys see me like turn my eyeballs back and forth, I'm like looking right at the camera, and I'm trying to talk to Art here at the same time. So it's just so mind-boggling, trying to figure out how to look straight into the video camera here and talk to somebody at the same time.
Yes. And I now have the laptop up, so I'm like looking down at the comments, looking at you, doing the same thing. No, it's I got a lot of practice at work doing this, so that's what makes it easy.
It always makes perfect.
Yeah, nice. What else? So the last thing, I think you guys went to York. Was that York that you picked up that Camelback?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Anything new you've added since then?
Well, not in particular, really, because considering that the October York show is going to be coming up pretty soon, and I don't really have a whole lot of money on me as of right now. It's mostly just like a wait and see kind of thing. I mean, me and my dad are still planning to go this October. Don't get me wrong, but I'm mostly just trying to save up my money for the meantime. And plus, I know I've stressed this earlier before on my channel, a few times, but it's almost been like 2 years since I've ever been employed.
Yeah, no, it's tough, and it is. Like I probably went overboard already this year. My kids definitely give me a hard time. I have my older son who is what I call him, my purchase advisor. I'll be like, I want to get this, and he'll be like, no. He keeps me in line at least. But yeah, I am definitely planning on coming to York this fall. That's my plan, at least at this point. Have you signed up yet online? I got to do that. I keep forgetting to do that. Maybe this weekend.
Well, me and my dad just got our applications in like 2 days ago, and we just sent them into the post office today. So hopefully by September or probably late August, we'll get our badges. Until then,
Yeah, so it's all paper, right? You don't do it online, if I remember.
I
Gotta
mean,
look.
there are some things that you do have to fill. You do have to fill out online, but you don't actually get the papers until you go on their website.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll have to look that up. I just pulled it up. I'll have to look. See. But yeah, when we go, we'll definitely have to coordinate and catch up there when we get there. My
Absolutely. I
plan would
was
probably be I'll probably do like the Friday would be my guess.
That's what me
I'll
and my
take a
dad are
day
planning
off of work.
to do.
Yeah, so we'll have to definitely meet up out there.
Definitely. I was actually two minds think alike here.
Nice. All right, wait. So, all right, I know you started this Thursday night thing now, where you do these live streams every Thursday night. How
Mhm.
many have you done so far, and like, has it been successful?
Whew, that's a really good question. I mean, I've done a couple of live streams here and there, but when I first started out, I really wasn't gaining, that much traction from a lot of people online. But oddly enough, the more I started to do these live streams, the more I had a lot more followers, tuning into my channel here. And I also kind of started, the first time I ever done a live stream anywhere was on Instagram. And I might get like a couple of, followers watching here and there, but it wasn't as, huge like it is now on YouTube. So I think I have a lot more, success when it comes to live streams on YouTube versus Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, I find the same thing. Like, and I just also think, um, it's easier a little. It's a little bit easier to do it on YouTube, I find. And then I also what I like about it is when you're done, it's there on your channel, right? So it's like with Instagram, a lot of times that stuff just falls away, right? You don't. I think some of it stays. I think you have to do something to make it stay, right? But I
I
think on
mean,
YouTube it defaults to being on your channel. So therefore, like you said, you get subscribers out of it because it's another video on your channel for people to catch up on.
with Instagram, you can't. They actually do give you the option now on whether you want to save or delete your live stream. Depending on, how long you've been, online for.
Oh, okay. All right. So that might yeah, they're probably trying to compete with YouTube, is my guess, right?
Hmm. I would think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I think like Instagram I use more for like the short videos, the pictures, and to drive people into YouTube.
I actually prefer Instagram a lot more than I do with Facebook. No disrespect to Facebook whatsoever, but I feel like, it Facebook does have like a couple of problems here and there, which I really wish they could address. Like if you try to like block somebody that's like, bothering you or so, and if you get like that same problem going down the road, you block a couple of more people, then the first person that you blocked a little while back is going to get, it's going to get themselves, undeleted, and then all of a sudden you got to go and delete that account again.
Oh, I didn't know that. I
Mhm.
didn't know that. All right. That's interesting. I
So they
luckily have not had to block anybody, but I don't really go on Facebook that much. I go on who is it? Well, there's the LCCA group that I'm a part of. DA Griffin Hobby has his group.
Mhm.
And I think a couple of other like buy and sell groups I watch, that kind of stuff. But I really don't go on there that much. I actually prefer Instagram. To me, it's a lot easier to digest all that, right? Like stay out
Right.
of all the ads and everything.
And again, that's kind of the only reason why I stick to Facebook is because Dave's got his group, which I love being a part of, and he also got the group that's owned by the Seaside Model Railroaders Club, which is the train club that I'm associated with, and
Yeah.
you also have the TCA and some other kumbubla of train groups online. But that's mostly what I just use Facebook for. And getting back to that thing that I mentioned about blocking people is that Facebook gives you like a certain amount of people that you can block, but then after a while, if you want to try to get rid of more accounts that you're not really too fond of, or if somebody's like harassing you or anything, then those accounts are going to get unblocked, and then you have to waste more time and try to block those accounts again in order for uh I know I'm just making this stuff as I go along, but just kind of bear with me for a second.
It's awesome. I didn't realize that. I guess, like I said, I've never had to actually block anybody because I try not to go on there that often. That's interesting.
Right, but you
Um,
kind of get what I'm saying here, though.
yeah, no, I get it. I get it. It's like the first one drops off when you get to a certain limit.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. Wait, I think we had a question in here. Uh, who is it? George says, at York, what hall do you start in? So I've never been to York before, so this will be my first trip. But I think last time you were telling me what hall to start in.
I would suggest you probably start with the Orange Hall first, because that's where all of the heavy hitters usually are located at.
Yeah.
Not just YouTube wise, but a lot of the big model train displays like Train World. They also have Mr. Muffin's trains, and they also had a TM Books and Video booth over there too. And I actually had the pleasure of meeting Bob Phillips there in August, and he was a really nice guy and gave me a lot of helpful tips along the way on how to repair trains and such. So, if you ever want to, if if this is definitely your first time going to York, I definitely recommend going to the Orange Hall first.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably where I would start. Um, I guess what I'm weighing is if are the deals that good there, right? Like, is it better off buying something before you go to York versus at a hobby shop at a maybe not through like Facebook Marketplace or something like that, but at a hobby shop or another like location versus going to York? Are you really going to get a better deal there?
You
And I
should.
think you and I were talking about last time, or either that, or we were texting about it at one point. Like, I'm really interested in the Blue Comet, the Legacy Blue Comet Camelback, and I have found a couple of stores that sell it online for a pretty reasonable price. And I'm wondering myself, like, is it worth going to York just to pick this up from that dealer versus like buying it off of their site? Are they really going to discount it anymore at York?
Right. I mean, like you said, if you do plan to buy something from one of the halls, they should definitely give you a little bit of a discount on that particular product that you might be interested in.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know last time we were talking about it, actually, we were talking about York last time we were on Instagram. Somebody made a comment in the comment section about like, make sure you find the test track, which I thought was a great idea, right? Like, make sure when if you're not buying from like trains.com or Train World, right? Like, you want to make sure that you have an opportunity to test whatever you buy.
Definitely. And that's also another thing, because you really want to test the item out first before you even think about purchasing it.
Yeah. All right. Here's a great question. Compared to the Greenberg train show, how much bigger is York? So I live in New Jersey and I go to the Edison Greenberg train show 2, 3 times a year when it rolls through here.
That's the
And
same. That's the same Greenberg show that me and my dad used to attend when we used to live in New Jersey.
yeah, that's a fairly big one, depending on what time of year. In November, it's really big. It's coming up again in 2 weeks in August. And it's a little bit smaller just because it's summertime and there's not as many people around. But I don't know how that compares to York. From what I've heard, York is like 4 times the size of that, probably.
Yes.
How many halls is it up to now? I think it's like 4, 5, 6 halls, right?
Usually in the
Some have
October.
layouts, right?
Yeah. Well, usually in the October your fact. Yeah. Usually when it comes to the October shows, there are like maybe 6, 7 halls, as well as the train layouts, like you mentioned. But the last in April, when me and my dad went, there was only like 3 or 4 halls that were kind of opened. So the
Interesting.
April shows aren't really as big like the October shows are.
Yeah. But I do know, and I know you were talking before about submitting your application. Join the TCA. I think it's $50 for the year, because when
Yes.
you join the TCA and get your ticket, you can go into any hall. If you don't join the TCA, you get a one-time like courtesy pass or something like that you can go to any hall, but then you have to join in order to attend. If you're not a member, you can only go to a couple of the halls, if I remember correctly.
Oh wait, it's actually 7 halls. There's actually
All right,
7 halls in
7.
the October
Yeah.
show.
Someone said 7.
Yep, there you go. 7 halls. Some George just threw it in there. Thanks, George.
George is kind of like my corrections officer, in case you guys were wondering.
Nice. Yeah, so it is October. Somebody asked when is it? It's in October. I don't remember. Wait, I have it open. Hold on, I'll see what the days are here. I want you switch to October 19th through the 21st in 2023. So registration began on January. So I think we're already late if it's August and we haven't well, was it late July and we haven't registered yet?
Mm-hmm. The thing doesn't really expire until October 19th.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you can go that day and like sign up right there at the door and get a pass and everything. I think you just get a little bit of a discount if I remember correctly, buying early.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a drive for me though. You guys, do you stay the night when you drive out there, or do you go out for the day and come back?
Me and my dad usually go for only one day because it's, well, for us, like you said, when it comes to you and your family, it's a bit of an arm and a leg to get up there for us because it takes us like maybe 2.5 hours to get up there.
Yeah, I have to look at man. I haven't looked at directions recently, but if I remember correctly, it's close to that for me too.
Actually, I take that back. It's probably maybe like 2 hours and 45 minutes. So that's nearly close to like a 3-hour drive.
Yeah, I'm just doing. Okay, let's see from
Where we live to York, it's going to be
No way.
142 miles.
All right, so it's I just looked it up. 2 hours and 45 minutes from here. So that's not too bad. That's not too bad. Because I'm just planning on going out for the day. I'll wake up bright and early, probably drag my father with me. He's a morning person who likes to do a lot of walking. So I'll drag him out and drive out there, spend a few hours and then drive back. Maybe have dinner out there, then drive back or something like that. Yeah. What's on your wish list for York this year then? You doing a lot to your layout? Are you looking for more layout pieces or anything else?
I mean, when it comes to accessories, I'm not really looking for anything in particular. I would probably say the 2 items that I'm really interested in the most are the very rare Lionel post-war Baltimore and Ohio Sentinel car from the 64 series. And then the second item that I would really like to get is the Lionel post-war Bosco milk car from 1959. I believe that's when it was built.
Interesting. Those are good. Yeah, and I would guess York is a great place to find that kind of stuff.
Yes, and thankfully I have seen a couple of Bosco milk cars, from a bunch of from a bunch of dealers that I've seen walking around some of the halls, and they also do come with the platforms too.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. When you were there, speaking of the different halls, the hall you mentioned, the Orange Hall, is a lot of the dealers, right? So it's a lot of like Train World Trains, Mr. Muffins. You mentioned those. Have you had success getting stuff at some of the other halls that are like individuals selling their collections or that kind of thing, or is it mostly just from the bigger stores?
I mean, there are other, uh, well, there are some other, train manufacturers there that do sell some unique items here and there, and they also, I know you mentioned that you guys like to go to the Greenberg shows, but they actually do have some of the vendors from over there as well.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Yeah, the Greenberg shows. I mean, for me, I feel like I have cut back a lot on spending money there. That most of the time the kids get stuff for their HO set there, just because I find the Greenberg show, at least here in Edison, tends to be a lot of post-war stuff. And I have a huge collection that my father handed me of post-war stuff. I'm not looking to add much more to that at this point. So it's for me, I look for one or two things, and if I see those one or two things, like then I buy it. I actually use the Greenberg shows a lot to look for um, scenery pieces. Like, can I get some trees, or can I get some people, or can I get like, one of the things I've been looking for more recently is like um, crates and things like that to put in the rail yard, to put in the engine shed over here, things like that that are a little like what do you want to call them? Like detail pieces, things like to add to the setup. Any what? All right, here's a good one for you. What do you think of the 3D printing stuff that's going on? Right, I've seen a few guys talk about how they've 3D printed stuff for their layout.
I mean, I don't really have any. I mean, I don't really have a anything in particular to say about it. Really, I mean, whoever makes the nicest pieces, then everybody wins.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I think it's cool. It's interesting. It's really interesting. What I think about it is like, it gives you the flexibility to really be custom, right? Like, as opposed to just relying on Woodland Scenics and saying, okay, everybody's got the same little Woodland Scenics characters, or the Woodland Scenics crates or whatever, right? Like, you can get, different stuff, unique stuff. Like, if you can find somebody who has a 3D printer who will print it for you. Yeah, so I got a buddy at work. I'm kind of warming him up to the idea that I need him to print me a few things. So all right, we got is that from Germany? I don't have my glasses on. I can't read that. Does that say they're from Germany? All right. There we go. Welcome.
So I actually got an interesting question for you this time. So considering that MTH is kind of slowly moving under the radar, and that they're selling some of their, not just parts and components, but molds to Lionel, do you think that they're still going to continue to make European trains, or do you think that Lionel might take a shot at making European style locomotives this time around?
That's an interesting question, because you mentioned Eric Strains before, right? Like, he has talked a couple times about how he's after everything that MTH put out. Like, he was trying to get one of each, if I remember correctly. And I wonder if they sold that to Atlas. That was what I was thinking in the back of my head. I don't know. I have nothing to back that up on, but I feel like Lionel seems to kind of center themselves around like a core like version, at least the catalogs I see, right? Like, they center themselves around like a set of engines that they just kind of like slowly repeat their way through every couple years, and they upgrade, whether it's electronics or they move it to different road names or whatever. And so I feel like that's something an Atlas would pick up, because I feel like they do some of that more unique stuff, and I think it's probably going to show up in their lineup sooner than it would show up in Lionel's.
And that's also another thing, because I know that Atlas is mostly used to making diesel locomotives, but I never really seen them make a steam locomotive, whatsoever.
That's a great question. Now that you say it, I don't think I've ever seen them make a steam engine as well.
I mean, the only European type locomotives that Lionel has are the Harry Potter, train set, as well as some of the Thomas the Tank Engine items that they made.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I got Thomas. I don't know, where are you guys in the camera? Now you can't see it. He's up on the shelf way down that end of the layout down there. We got the Thomas Christmas set that we throw under the tree every year.
Very cool.
He's a great little engine. He runs on the 027 track. That's my favorite part about it. He's so small that he actually fits on 027.
We also have a little Christmas themed Thomas the Tank Engine locomotive that we run on our layout over at the Train Club on Saturday.
Nice. How is that? Do you enjoy being like part of a club? I looked around. There's not really one that close to me here. They're probably both there's one 45 minutes north of me, one 45 minutes south of me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, originally when me and my folks lived in Jersey, I know I mentioned New Jersey a bunch of times in this video already, but from where we used to live, there really wasn't a whole lot, to look around and see what we could find. I mean, most of the train clubs that they had down there are from like Patterson or from Nassau. But ever since we moved down here to Delaware, and me and my dad started going to some of the local train shows, I saw like an application for some kind of train club that they had in Seaside, uh, Selbyville, Delaware. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? This actually might be the perfect opportunity to, sign up for a chance. And like the old saying goes, sometimes if you want something to be done right around here, you gotta try to do it yourself. At least once in a while.
Nice. And so, what's the difference now? Like when you're at the club, how does that work? Do you bring your stuff there, or is there stuff there to run, and everybody kind of just shares it?
Well, we do have a couple of engines and some rolling stock over at the club that anybody can run, whenever they want. But I mostly just bring, some of my own engines and some of my own pieces of rolling stock. But when it comes to hours, we're actually only open like 2 days a week. Like on Wednesday, we're open from like 5 p.m. till about like 8 o'clock. But most of the time, we usually close at 7 because the Wednesday is mostly a school night for a lot of kids and such. But
Yeah.
Is our most busiest. It's Saturday is our most busiest day of the week. Now on Saturdays, the difference is we're only open from like 10 a.m. to 3 in the afternoon.
Yeah. Interesting. Now, do you have to go like work on the layout and everything as part of being part of the club?
Uh, well, mostly the guys that have been there longer than I have, they mostly do a lot of the electronic stuff. I mostly just focus on, running the trains for a lot of people who come to visit us.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's something I don't know. I've considered, but so what is it? The NJ High Railers are in Patterson, right? That's probably the one I was talking about. That's 45 minutes north of me. And then there's one in Brick that I cannot think of the name of. Um, that's about 45 minutes south of me. So I'm probably, one way or the other too far away to go to either one of them. So, but I haven't found anybody. I'm still trying to figure out some people local around here who I could, pair up with and like, run trains on different layouts, things like that. But, you know, that I guess I'll figure that out over time.
We also do have like 5 different gauges at our club. We got O gauge, S gauge, HO, C gauge, and then finally we got a G gauge layout. So that's like, 5 train layouts that we have over
Wait, did you say Z or C?
Z.
Z. How is that? My son is like obsessed with Z and
That's
would
how
love to
how big.
like. And I
That's
go online. I'm like, I want to buy one of those sets just to see what it looks like, but they're so expensive. How do you get that on the track? You need a railer, obviously, right?
I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't really know because I don't really have a whole lot of experience with Z gauge.
Okay, cool. I know. There was a Train World, I think last year had a special. They had a Christmas Z gauge set for I want to call it like $200, and it sold out like that. Um, and I've been like trying to look around and find another one. Amazon Prime Day happened early last month, and I was like looking around at that to see if I could pick something up cheap, but nothing went on sale there. So maybe this holiday season I can find one because I'm just really curious to see like even what it looks like.
Now, the one thing I do find really odd about our O gauge layout is that even though we do have accessories that you can activate by pushing buttons along the side of the table, I kind of like the accessories a lot more on the American Flyer layout because you can actually load and reload some of the cars, using some of those accessories on that layout. But with the O gauge layout, we really don't have something like that. I mean, the only thing that we do have is the magnetic crane, but it's not really hooked up. You know, it's not hooked up by any chance, whatsoever. So I really
Yeah,
wish that they
interesting.
would. I really wish they, can consider, rehooking that crane up so that way, you know, if people come over, they could just, operate the crane and, pick up the culverts that are laying on the side and put them in the gondola or take them out of the gondola if you wish.
I don't know. That sounds like a great project for you to hook up and set it up for them, right? Like, yeah, Tell them that's what you'll work on this year and have it running by Christmas time.
Could be a possibility.
Yeah, no, that's the one thing. I have. I don't know, what do I have? I have like the beacon towers, that kind of stuff. Um, for operating accessories, the milk car. I have a couple of dump cars, like coal cars, log cars, things like that. And then one other thing I did was that's another video I need to do is the lights are on the switches here that I hooked up. So on the switch tracks, as you switch the tracks, you can't probably see it in the camera here, but as you switch the tracks, I have these signals set up so that I know I can look quickly and see which track is actually set to green. It's not so much for when the trains are pulling out of the yard. Obviously, as they're pulling out, right, they're just going to go and the switches will flip open for them. But it's more for when I'm backing the trains in. I know which line it's going to go in, which part of the shed or whatever. So I should do a video on that. I looked it up. It was a thread on the OGR forum that I looked it up on, and then I was able to like follow that and kind of create it. It's a set of relays, and the signals are signals I purchased off of eBay. So now it really didn't cost a lot of money. More than anything, it was just time spent like with the little wires, like trying to get the little wires into the little sections of the relay and all that kind of stuff. That took a little bit of time, but it works great. It really is a neat little like addition to the layout to do that. And then the only other thing now I have to do over here is, like I said before, I have to do the lighting for like the yard lights on here so that we have a little bit of like light on the trains as they're parked there. The other thing I did was I actually you probably can't see again in the camera here, but this is a piece of tube track that I just have the Lionel Hobo car sitting on, and I just have it wired in as an accessory so that, and I just put a switch down here so I can turn that on and off. And see if I don't know if you can hear it making noise now, but that way I don't have to have it on a track that's lit up all the time. I can leave it on a side like track like this, and then when I want to run it, I just drop it on the track and run it around the train.
So what you're really saying is that track section isn't really connected to anything.
It's not connected to any part of the layout, and I built it to look like it's an old piece. I built it in parallel to look like it's an old piece of the yard that they just kind of left when they redid the yard or something like that.
Nice. And like you said, those signals really do add a nice little touch to the freight yard there.
Yeah. I think this switch track I need to play around with. I think one of the wires might be a little loose, but it really is, like I said, it wasn't that hard to do. It's just a matter of like figuring out exactly how to wire it all together, following the diagrams and everything. All right. So another comment in here for you. How long have you been working on your layout?
I was just gonna say I was actually just gonna say I'm gonna check to see what everybody else is saying in the comment section here.
There's a question for you about how long you've been working on your layout.
That's definitely something that I'm gonna have to take a few minutes to think about.
Do some math.
Yeah, because it's funny, once you actually start working on the layout, after a while you tend to forget when you actually, what you tend to forget, once once you actually start working on the actual layout, you tend to forget after a while on when you actually started production on it. And the information is still up here. It's just you really got to do a couple of minutes of thinking to actually regain your memory.
Yeah, I've done a history video that's on my YouTube channel for the history of my layout, but even that now is dated. I talk about like how I started with my father in the basement when I was younger, but when I moved into this house, that was one of the first things I did was I built this 4x8 table here. That's basically the base of our layout, but it is now grown because now the whole layout is with the yard. I think it's 16 feet by about 5.5 feet, but the yard right here obviously is only like, I think it's a little over 2 feet wide. So this part's narrower, obviously. But yeah, it's I think back to your point, right? Like I think back to where I started with the 4x8 sheet of plywood and how I've added on to it all over the place. And for me, I've even gone down. So this is, or if I can get my finger pointed the right way here, I can't. There we go. This part down here is another, and you and I've talked about this. It's a layout under my layout. It's a 4x6 layout for Christmas under here. That's I constantly have. I have the Polar Express and everything running down there all the time. So for me, it's been 10 years or so working on these two layouts. That's about as long as I've had them up.
Well, we really don't run that Christmas table until around Christmas time.
No, I do run them. My son's over here off camera in case anybody didn't heard that. He's saying I don't run that often. I do run it a lot, but the one challenge I have is that table being down low. When the kids are playing in the basement and a ball or something goes over there, it will knock like trees over and things like that. So a lot of times I won't run it because when I come downstairs, I have to go through and make sure there's no trees blocking the track or no people knocked over, things like that. So it's a little bit less, a little bit more effort to get that going. Yes, there you go. Somebody said the magic words there. You never actually stop working on the layout, right? that is absolutely true.
You always add like new
I-
people to the layout.
I'm always adding something. I always have an idea, and I even have started planning like my next layout for when I can take over the whole basement. The kids go off to college. I get the basement. I've already started thinking about like taking this one, and I would take this one down and build a whole new layout. My two boys want me to build a bridge from this layout to a new layout and expand it and make it one big loop. So we'll see. But yeah, that's definitely a good point. You're right. You never stop building.
That is so true. But anyway,
Yeah, I
getting
mean,
back
you just
to that,
talked about it before, right? Like you're working on some new ideas for your layout, working on some new videos, making some edits, like and you've got. I know we've talked about in the past. You've got a couple of things that you were thinking about with the bridge in the back and things like that. That I think will be great places for you to edit your layout.
definitely. But anyway, getting back to that question
I want to say
that you were
there you
on.
go. Somebody says they want to take over the White House. Well, careful, you never know who's actually monitoring YouTube.
But anyway, getting back to that question that you mentioned to me about how long it took me to build, both of these layouts back here. The first one, all the way in the back here, I think I started at like November 17th, and I actually got done with it probably somewhere in the middle of December. And then when it came to the second layout here, I think I probably started somewhere in January and probably didn't get done with it until like maybe early March or so.
That's still pretty good. I mean, that's two layouts in what, 5 months there, 6 months, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And I know you've talked about it in the past. How big are they?
Both tables right behind me here are about like 8x4s, but combining them both all together, the entire layout is a 8x8 type of train layout.
Yeah. Cool. What do you say? You want to get some trains running for everybody
Definitely.
for a little bit?
So what do we got on
Hi,
your
everyone.
layout
Do you
tonight?
need me? 'Cause I'm the last one working.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. My son was talking in the background. What'd you say? You want to get some trains running?
Yeah. So what type of locomotives are you going to be running tonight?
Yeah, so I had, like I said, I got this new, the New York Central. I was going to get that going. Up top here on my elevated line, I have this is a Union Pacific Challenger, also a Lion Master Challenger. It's probably pretty noisy, so I won't run my post-war. I have the post-war EP5 under here, the New Haven, and then down the end down there, on one of my inner loops, I have New York Central consolidation, the Legacy 080, no 280 consolidation that Lionel put out last year. So I know they just put in another version of it in their catalog, the Volume 2 catalog that just came out.
Mm-hmm.
But I have the version from last year that's New York Central, so that's what's down there. That's what I was going to fire up. How about yourself? You have anything on your layout right now?
So what I got here on the main layout is my Proto Sounds 3 Union Pacific Big Boy from MTH. I'm also going to be running my Lionel Post-War 623 NW2 switcher with some appropriate type of rolling stock to go with it. And then it's a little hard to see in the back, but if I could just move the camera around. I also have my Norfolk Southern Proto Sounds 3 ST9 type locomotive. And then finally, I got the bridge reinstalled. A little spoiler there, but I have my Lionel Red 52 fire car, which I'm going to be operating on the top there.
Nice. Wait, before we start running trains and it gets all noisy, let me ask that you said that first one is a Proto Sounds 3 MTH Big Boy.
Yes.
So is that one of the new ones that just came out?
I would actually believe so. I mean, it still looks pretty new to me, and I believe this was actually released somewhere in between 2020 to like 2021, if my memory serves me correct.
Oh, okay, because they just what was it? They just came out. Is it a Premiere or is it the Rail King version?
This is the Rail King model.
Okay, because they just released, right? Like I think they're in the process right now of releasing the new Rail King ones. What do you think of the detail on that? Does it have good detail?
It's got more than just great detail. I mean, the entire thing, put it all together is just phenomenal. I mean, I would still consider this type of model to be the world's ugliest big boy, considering it doesn't have the number boards up top. But if you take a look at everything else on the actual engine, including the little housing for like the bell and the way the marker lights are painted and all of the incredible detail they put on here, you kind of tend to forget about that once you actually see the locomotive in operation.
Yeah. No, it was interesting because we talked before about that. It's one of the reasons I wanted to go to York, was to pick up a Lionel Lion Master Big Boy. And then MTH came out with this Rail King version, and I was like really tempted to take a look at one of those. Now, do you still run everything using the remote commander, or do you actually have the full DCS system now?
Well, I usually run a lot of my DCS type of locomotives on the layout in the back here because that's where I have all my wires and such connected to the. Well, I have everything. Usually, there are some times where I like to run everything with the traditional post-war ZW, but like I said, for a lot of the DCS system, I always like to run it on the layout back here.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I'm really interested to see that run. Why don't you get it running? I'm gonna go get my stuff started up too, and I'll move my camera down a little bit so I have a better angle.
Sure thing. By the way, I would say that the only downside that I have with this model, with the big boy here, is the tender. I mean, it's very beautifully built, like I mentioned, just like with the locomotive here, but it's so wobbly. So at some point, I would really like to add a couple of weights inside, so that way that the tender is, straightened, so that way it's not, moving back and forth so much. Because
Yeah.
when it keeps moving around the entire layout here, if you look at the train, if you're standing back here, if you're looking at the train going this way right in front of you, the tender is really tilted. So I would really like to add a couple of weights inside, so that way.
No, that's a great idea.
It
That's
stays
a great
straight.
idea. Gauge Greg said, start up that big boy and run it. I guess he's tired of us talking about it. He wants to see it running.
As you wish.
All right.
All right, so enough of us, babbling long. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of the video here, and we'll be back in just a few minutes to answer more questions. And as always, we'll play it by ear. So enjoy the rest of the running session here.
I got you get far enough back you can actually see anything.
Yeah, so somebody was asking where I keep my boxes. So I have a storage room here in the basement that I have a bunch of boxes in, but I've also had to use some of my closet upstairs in the master bedroom and in the guest room. Not sure how much more I can do of that before my wife starts to give me a hard time about it.
See you around, George. Hope to see you at York as well.
So the one thing I will say is, so under my layout, I have my O gauge, like Christmas themed layout, and I have one of my son's HO layouts. The one downside of doing that is every time I want to work on the upper layout, I have to pull out one of those layouts to crawl underneath and do some of the wiring and stuff. And it does get a little bit inconvenient. I will say that. So I do some days wish I had just thrown a curtain around it and shoved a bunch of boxes under there. But it is actually a great way to get another layout in without taking up a lot more real estate. I see another question popped up about how long. So my layout, I just added this yard that's off to the left of the screen right now that I was sitting in front of before. I just added that over the last couple of months. So my layout, I feel like it's constantly changing these days. The latest thing I added is actually, well, I guess this engine right here is for me the latest thing added to the layout. But over here in the yard scene, building this kind of hobo scene, and the building flat in the back there. These are kind of the latest things I've done on the layout outside of adding the whole shed facility there. And I added the backdrop if anybody's interested with some backdrop junkies. And they were great to work with. Train Junkie, sorry, Train Junkie is the backdrop. They were great to work with. I just called them up or emailed them actually and said, here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this height, this length, and this is the scene I selected from their site, and they were able to just give me exactly what I wanted. And then when I extended my layout to add in the yard, they gave me a piece that matched perfectly to extend it off of that. Some of the other places I was looking at were going to charge me twice the amount to do that similar thing.
And then my first layout all the way in the back there started about November, somewhere around November 17th, and I finished it up in probably mid December. And then the main layout over here, as you see, started in January, and then I finished it around early March.
Yeah, I saw that comment. Yeah, I mean, I had an old backdrop in there that I purchased at Henning's Trains, and putting in this backdrop from Train Junkies has really changed the entire layout. It gives it so much more dimension. That and the building flats. PTF Designs from the building flats, right? He's on YouTube. He's PGH Train Fanatic, I think, on YouTube. Those building flats are great too, and they come with the LEDs installed on them. You just wire them up to a DC power source. Let me pull you over so you can actually see those over here. Yeah, one of them's a warehouse I have, and right there, and then I have a building flat for a switch tower right there.
It's kind of funny actually, because even though I could still hear you talking straight, right at me, I still can't like hear the trains running on your end. And then as for my backdrop over here, I only bought it at Hobby Lobby for about like $5 and some change.
Okay, so somebody was asking about the pink engine on the wall. That is not a pink 777. It is actually an MTH Rail King engine. He's talking about, Mr. Bangor, I think right, that one right up there. That is an MTH Rail King Vanderbilt Hudson for breast cancer awareness. It was made in 2017. I bought it used from Just Trains in Delaware. They posted it on their Facebook page that they had it. And I picked it up from there. It's a great little runner. It's a little sensitive when it comes to using the remote commander to control it on the track. So I'm excited for when I finally get a full DCS system to see it. And hopefully it'll run a little better. It'll respond a little better to commands. Once I get it running, it runs great. And the MTH engines, I have to say, smoke fantastic. But most of my stuff, the post-war stuff I was given by my father is all Lionel, and most of my command control stuff is Lionel. I have that pink MTH engine, and I just bought the pacemaker Hudson that they had custom run with Train World. Yeah, so somebody was asking about the smoke output from the MTH engine. So, yeah, they go through the smoke fluid pretty quickly, I have to say. They do put out a lot of great smoke, but I find it's like comes out really heavy for like, a little while and then it really fades off. Whereas I think the Lionel engines are a little more consistent over the long run. I have noticed too with the MTH engine, there's a little screw adjustment for smoke output as opposed to the Lionel command engines where you can adjust it using the controller. So I have to keep playing around with that because you either sometimes crank it up too much or crank it down too much to get the right amount of output. But as you can see here, this 960 consolidation running, that's about half a dropper full of smoke fluid, and it's been pretty consistent since we started running it about 10, 15 minutes ago. Yeah, I was the same way. I pre-ordered the WTIU through Train World, but if you don't want to wait around, I know it's probably only another month or so before it's here. But if you don't want to wait around, pick up the little MTH remote commander. It's a little handheld remote. It will at least let you run a brand new engine or an engine that has been factory reset. It can only run one engine. It's made for their like starter sets, but usually you can get them for like $50 to $60 online if you find one used. And at least that'll have you an option to run the engine while you wait for the WTIU to come through. And actually, Railchief has done a video on that. If I'm not mistaken, it was a review and how you set up that system.
Actually, done 2 videos on that remote control system.
All right, so the question about best smoke fluid. Personally, I use Lionel premium smoke fluid, but I have a couple of bottles of, and I do flip back and forth sometimes with JT Mega Steam. What I find with the Mega Steam is it burns out faster. So that it seems like the Lionel smoke fluid lasts a little longer. I haven't noticed a difference really. I mean, maybe a little bit in how thick the smoke looks, but I do notice that the Mega Steam does burn through faster. Honestly, though, I think the one big difference is Mega Steam has a lot more flavors than Lionel does.
And I use a mixture of MTH and TJ's Mega Steam as well. As for me, I got a bunch of flavors of this stuff, including original cinders, Christmas tree pine, as well as hot chocolate. And as for the MTH, I just have a regular bottle of Proto Smoke with a vanilla scent in it.
Yeah, so the question about a pre-order, I got a few of those coming in. The TIU, right? Yep, that's one of them. And then I have pre-ordered from Lionel catalog, the Volume 1 catalog. I did the 3-pack of Vision Line stock cars that I believe what was it, cheap this time around? I think it's cheap. I can't remember what it was, the animal sounds that'll have. And then I also, and that's Union Pacific because I want to run that behind my Challenger when I get a big boy. And then I ordered the Union Pacific Vision Line, I think it's Vision Line caboose that has the rail sounds built into it as well. And then there's one more thing that's coming, and I'm trying to think of what else it is. Oh, I also have on pre-order that I'm waiting to come in is the Lionel. It was Volume 2 catalog, I think, last year. The 060T switcher. It's a Railchief Plus 2.0 switcher. So that one's supposed to be coming in the next, I think, month or two.
All right, so I'm going to swap out the big boy here for the Berkshire because it was starting to get a little noisy in here.
Nice. I see it was a pre-order from the Volume 1 catalog. Nice. The gondolas. Those are good. I am actually also I'm also thinking of getting out of the Volume 2 catalog. There's a couple of things in there, but I haven't really decided yet what I'm going to put an order in for. Probably not that much. Definitely not an engine. Nothing really there spoke to me, but I am looking at a couple of the boxcar offerings they have. Those military boxcars are definitely very interesting if they weren't so expensive. Yeah, so I'm in New Jersey, in central New Jersey.
And I'm from Lewis, Delaware.
Oh, all right. I'm close. All right.
That's correct. You're not wrong on that one.
Yeah, if you guys look me up on Instagram, or my email is in my YouTube profile, you guys can reach out.
And you guys can follow me on YouTube as well as Instagram and Facebook.
Oh, I have to look up that store. I've been to the one in, was that Wildwood? When I went down to Cape May, there's a train shop in Wildwood that I've been to. But I'll have to look up where the train shop in New Jersey is.
It's in Piscataway.
I've also gone to the shop up in Mountain Lakes and out to, what's the one in Ewing, New Jersey? Dreams and Things, I think it's called, or something like that. Ewing, New Jersey. I've been to that one. Trains and Things. In fact, that's where my son he found this caboose for $30. Great little caboose. Oh, that's interesting. A custom run on a trolley in Wildwood. That's a great idea. That's the one thing I've been thinking about adding for Christmas is on the fireplace, like one of those bump and go trolleys. Just I have to just figure out which one to pick up. There you go. You can end up going hungry and going broke, visiting a shop every day at lunch, right? All right, I think I'm getting ready to sign it off here. Shut her down for the night. But thank you, Railchief, for having me on. Appreciate it.
No problem.
I'll be on the lookout, guys, to catch up with you guys on Instagram and YouTube as well. Hopefully, we can do this again soon.
Yeah, hold on. Let me just turn my camera around real quick. You can still hear me, right? You can still hear. You can still hear me, right? All right. Well, tonight isn't exactly what we were expecting when it comes to the audio here, but I think we're just going to end the video right here. But once again, I just wanted to thank Art from Art's OGH Trains for joining me tonight. It was such a great time getting a chance to chat with him for a little while, and we can't wait to have him again at some point in the near future. So once again, I hope you guys have really enjoyed watching us tonight. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And as always, don't forget to hit the notification bell down below for any other projects that I upload. And if you guys want to go check out Art's channel, he's here on YouTube, also known as Art's Model Trains. You can also follow him on Instagram as well. He's a really great guy. And so yeah, hope to see you all next time. Have a good one, guys.